Okay, so who's ready to get tougher? That took me an hour to make. Hey guys, the Hero Reviews here. Hope you guys like my new intro. That took me a while to animate, but you get the idea. Now, before I start this review, I just want to congratulate you guys because we just hit 300 subscribers. So give yourselves a big pat on the back. Anyway, I've been keeping up to date with that Kung Fu Panda 4 video I posted a few weeks ago, and you guys really seem to like that video. So don't worry, there's another one coming out soon, somewhere in May, but I don't know when. Now, don't be mad because my Wi-Fi is a little bit on the slow side. So the least I can do is give you guys this short review of the Knuckles TV show, which I watched a couple of days ago. So, without further ado, let's get to reviewing. Enjoy.
Here I come, rougher than the rest of them, the best of them, tougher than leather. You can call me Knuckles, unlike Sonic, I don't chuckle. I'd rather flex my muscles, I'm hard as nails, it ain't hard to tell. I break them down whether they solid or frail. Unlike the rest, I'm independent since my first breath. First test, feel the right, then the worst left.
Now, I want to start this review by saying that while I'm not the biggest fan of the Sonic series, especially in the early 2000s, I generally like the series overall. It's got great characters, great humor, great animation, and great games too. To be honest with you guys, my favorite game in the series is Sonic and the Black Knight, and that game is so underrated. Anyway, when I heard there was going to be a Knuckles TV show, I was pretty excited. Because, Knuckles is my second favorite character in the series, outside of Tails. Sorry, Knuckles, but nobody beats my flying friend. But anyway, so instead of reviewing the whole show in general, I'll just do a review of each episode in a short burst. So let's start with episode 1. So with episode 1, it's basically Knuckles trying to adjust to being on Earth. And it goes about as well as you expect. He trains with boulders, he kidnaps construction workers, and does what you expect a warrior of his caliber to do. Like making a battle pit, building a throne out of random stuff, and basically what you expect the show to be like. And long story short, Maddie grounds him, and after Sonic tries to cheer him up, which is his and Tails' only appearance in the show, which is pretty much of a bummer if you ask me. But anyway, he gets visited by Chief Pakavac, or Pakamac? Pakavac. I'll just call him Mac. Who tells him that he needs to find an apprentice to pass his ways of the Echidna onto, since, he's the last one. And the person is obviously, Wade, who we see lose a bowling game to a little girl, which is pretty humiliating if you ask me. So Knuckles teams up with Wade to train him and basically help him win a bowling tournament in Rio. And the episode ends with him and Wade getting jumped by 2 gun agents wielding gauntlets infused with Knuckles' power. Not a bad episode, really. Episode 2 starts off where we left off, with Knuckles fighting off the gun agents and eventually getting captured by them. And the episode is just Wade trying to rescue Knuckles from captivity, and Knuckles spends most of the episode in a cage. But still, he gets some great lines, and then a bounty gets placed on Wade's head for no reason that they explain. Episode 3 is where we're introduced to Wade's Jewish family, including a slightly overbearing mother and annoying sister. Like, seriously, this girl is so annoying. And Knuckles learns about their family traditions. Like, he learns about their 2 candles, and he has Shabbat dinner with them too. That goes terribly wrong. And after a conversation with him and Wade that was pretty sentimental, he saves them from bounty hunters that the gun agents hired. And the episode ends with all of them staring at the 2 candles as they go out. A pretty wholesome episode, and my favorite of the series. Episode 4 is about Wade getting captured by a bounty hunter he personally knows, and Knuckles decides to let this be a trial for Wade to overcome on his own. And how does he overcome this trial? Well, he basically gets put in a musical presentation of Knuckles' backstory, and it's so outlandish and weird that I just can't help but love it, really. Anyway, the episode ends with Wade defeating his friend by jousting with swords on a bicycle. I am not making this stuff up, trust me. And Knuckles gets his iconic hat in this episode too, so that's a plus too. Episode 5 is probably the most forgettable of the show because it mainly consists of Knuckles barely being in the episode for like 2 major scenes and then being stuck in a room until Wade gets him. Talk about being stuck in a green room. But other than that, it's basically us seeing Wade in a bowling tournament against his deadbeat dad, and then the gun agents capture his mother and sister so that they can hold him hostage until he gets Knuckles. So yeah, pretty forgettable. But hey, there were some good moments in here. The last episode features a climactic showdown between the gun agents and Knuckles, who's going up against the big bad of the series, the Buyer, who shows up in a giant mech in the final fight. And while it's not a bad final fight, I do wish it was longer. And then Wade defeats his father in the bowling tournament, and the series ends with the two riding away until the sunset. So yeah, not a bad finale, but it's okay. Now that that's done, I'll talk about the things I didn't like and liked about the show. First, let's get the elephant out of the room. When I was talking about the show, you may have noticed that I said that Knuckles doesn't show up that much. And it's because that sadly, the rumors about the show were kind of true. Now see, let me explain. You see, following the show's release, there was a rumor going around that Knuckles was barely in his own show. And when I finally got to watching the show, I could tell what they meant. And I think I know why. You see, this show suffers from what I like to call human disease, where a show or movie overshadows its animated or CGI characters by having the human characters take up too much screen time. And that's exactly what this show falls into, alongside Godzilla 2014. And we all know how badly they did Godzilla in that movie. Also, I heard this show doesn't have that much of a budget compared to the movies, so I can't really blame them for this. Now, I'm not saying that this show doesn't overshadow Knuckles all the time, but it does become noticeable after episode 1. Because after episode 1, that's where the Wade show begins. In case you haven't heard, a lot of people are calling this show the Wade show instead of the Knuckles show. And you really can't blame them for this. I mean, this show focuses so much on Wade and the bowling stuff that I almost forget this is supposed to be a Knuckles TV show. Now, I'm not saying Wade is a bad character, but we came to see Knuckles, not Wade the protagonist. It's just oversaturation if you ask me. On top of all that, this show really doesn't handle its villains that well. Now don't get me wrong, the gun agents aren't bad villains, they just don't have much screen time or presence to really be called good villains. I mean, they just show up in episodes 1 and 2, don't show up until the last 2 episodes, then quickly get taken out at the end. And even though I like Kid as Agent Mason, his character keeps getting ruined by comedic effect to really be as imposing as he wants to be. And the big bad of the series, the Buyer, he's one of the most forgettable parts of this entire show. I mean, he barely has less than 7 minutes of screen time, and only really shows up in the final episode and gets taken out pretty easily too. And I know I talked about a while about how I don't really like these villains, but they're just okay. They've got some great moments, and some of the fight scenes with them are pretty cool too. I just wish they had a little bit more screen time, and they're taken a little bit more seriously. Although, there is one thing about the show that I really hate. And when I looked at reviews of the show, I never really saw anyone else talk about it either. Where is the Master Emerald? I mean, seriously, this is a Knuckles TV show. And the Master Emerald is one of the most important things to Knuckles, if not the most important. And it's not even mentioned once by anybody. I mean, I watched the show frame by frame to see if I can find even a glimpse of the thing. But nothing. Nobody even talks about it. Not even Chief Mac. I mean, come on. Now look, I know they probably couldn't afford to put the Master Emerald here, but seriously, they could have really showed it at least once. I mean, even a glimpse would have been okay, but they don't. Not even including something that was so important in the second movie and in Sonic canon is just criminal. And, okay, look. I know I talked about how bad I think the show is, but look, this show is just okay. The story is okay, the characters are okay, the villains are just okay, and the action is actually one of the best part of the show. It's got great angles, great choreography, great animation, and every fight scene with Knuckles is just amazing. And there's not really that much action, really. Well, there is, but still, it's mostly with Wade. And when you really get down to it, when you look at a review of the show, what do they all have in common? I'll tell you, they all say the exact same thing. We just wish Knuckles was in the show more. I mean, he's one of the best parts of this entire show. And if they just focused on him more, then this show probably wouldn't have been better, in my opinion. And me personally, that's the way this show should have went down. And if they can focus more on the Sonic characters, then this show can be more than okay. Oh, and this show gets a 7 out of 10. An okay score if you ask me. Night, folks.